Hi there. Let's take a quick look at inventory and a neat kind of template that we've built with inventory using the details grid, as well as custom formulas and some conditional formatting. So what I've done is went ahead to save time and logged in, and I've loaded up inventory here. And this is a default layout that's come in. So I'm just going to limit myself down to just items in warehouse 00 for this example. And what I've done is created a layout, and I'm going to load it, called invested inventory. So what invested inventory does basically is shows me information about, let's make this a little smaller so I can see everything, shows me information about inventory items that I might want to act on. And I'll kind of explain how this works. So the idea here is I'm looking at inventory, but I'm also looking at how much inventory value I have versus how much inventory sales I'm making, so that I can kind of highlight items and focus on those items and ask questions about whether I should be buying more of it, buying less of it, selling it at a discount, trying to move it, those kinds of things. So how does this work? So what I'm looking at here is, as I scroll down, items are highlighted in two different ways. One way is in red if there's an indication that there's a problem, and another way is in green if there's an indication that things are going well. So again, I've invented kind of a formula for this that's meaningful to me in my business. Let's take a look at the formulas. The first one is invested inventory. So let's look at the expression I've built. So the expression I've built basically is saying take last year's sales, if it's greater than 0, and calculate out what the percentage relative to current cost total is. So what I'm saying is, based on my value of inventory, on-hand quantity times current cost, relative to last year's sales, how am I doing? And that's basically generating this number here. So here basically a high number essentially is bad, because a high number is indicating that my current cost total, for example here, is $305. However, so far this year I've only sold $300 worth, which means I haven't even covered my costs yet. Low numbers on the other hand are good. Here for example I've got $10,281 worth of inventory value based on-hand times current cost. However, this year I've sold $39,000 worth of value of that inventory item. So basically that's an item that I'm doing well with relative to how I'm maintaining things. Like all formulas, these aren't necessarily perfect. If I brought in a brand new item that I didn't have last year, that's going to highlight that to indicate, okay, you haven't made any sales to compare this to yet. The idea being that you're focusing on this as a new product. Invested inventory this year is doing the calculation to determine whether or not that field should be in green, and it's similar. So if I go into the expression editor, here I've created a formula that says if this year's sales is greater than 0, take the current cost and divide it by this year's sales. So again, that's basically saying focus on comparing current cost total to this year's sales in terms of dollar value. Where this color coding comes in is in the actual conditional formats. So let's go in and manage those. So the first conditional format, let's load that up and edit it, is saying if invested inventory is greater than 100%, turn that red. So basically that's saying mathematically, if my current cost is greater than the amount of sales I've made, based on those fields, then turn that field red, or in this particular case, turn the entire row red. So again, it's basically saying if I haven't even exceeded the current value of inventory in terms of this year's sales, this is something potentially I want to look at, and the higher the number, the more I want to look at it. My second formula, if I edit that one, again is using a formula, and that's basically saying if the invested inventory year to date, which is based on this year's inventory, is greater than 60%, then turn that green. So what that's saying basically is, sorry, if it's less than 60%. What that's basically saying is if the value of my current cost is less than 60% of this year's sales, that's a good thing. That means that my inventory value relative to what I'm selling is moving quickly. And even there, this is based on rules you're establishing in your business. That number might have to be lower. That could even become a problem. If your invested inventory this year relative to current cost is too low, you might be missing opportunities. You may not have inventory to sell. So again, these are just sort of formulas I put together for my business to determine whether or not this is something I should focus on. Let's close that. And you can even see that here if I look at some of these numbers that kind of land on the line. Here's an example of a part number where the current cost is $166,000, current cost total I should say. However, this year's sales is $267,000. That's good, but it's not great. It basically means that I have a large invested inventory value, and while it's not something I should be warned about because I'm moving through it, it's not something I should be celebrating because I'm still maintaining probably a larger inventory sort of margin base than I should be for the purposes of this. And then there are items that you should be really concerned about. Here's an example in red of this one. So the current cost total here is $157,000 worth of inventory value I'm carrying for that item. However, last year I only sold $56,000 worth of that item, and so far this year only $28,000 worth of that item. So again, I may have a large problem here. That may mean that I've invested in an item that's not moving for some reason. And this is where you start to take business actions. You decide to sell that at a larger discount, to look at returning that to the vendor. Lots of different things you can do to help you move that inventory. The key to this whole process, though, is that by doing this formula and even doing it based on product categories, you can quickly scroll down the list and see those items that are of concern that you want to take some sort of action on, or items that you're doing well with and you need to be less concerned about. So again, just another unique way of using the grid view in conjunction with formulas and conditional formatting to help highlight things that you need to be aware of in your business.